25 years ago inspired a generation of musicians to do their own charity work. Here's Bono.
Once you've held your own child in your hands, the idea that the breath of that child could be taken away because people weren't prepared to share the extraordinary wealth there is in the world. When you're holding your own child, just you can't believe it. And after Live Aid, I went with my wife Ali. We worked in Ethiopia for a month. And people were handing me their children, saying, "You take my son, please, because you know he's going to die if you leave him with me." And I'd have to walk away from that. And that is something I've never really been able to put out of my head. And to see children thrown over fences of barbed wire in these camps where they're feeding, these shelters. You know, the barbed wire is there not to keep the people in, but to keep them out, you know. It's a really sort of reverse concentration camp. And this is happening in our time. And it is not that there isn't enough to go around. This is a period of unimaginable prosperity in the so-called first world.
Jamie Drummond, co-founder of One, the anti-poverty campaign group, along with Bono and Bob.
The result has been a huge proliferation of democracy across the continent, a significant reduction in poverty, tens of millions of more people in school, millions more on antiretroviral drugs, and millions of kids no longer catching malaria. And in particular, there's a subset of African countries, around 17, that don't have tons of oil, they don't have tons of resources, but the economies of those countries are growing, they're relatively democratic, and they're lifting people out of poverty. And in the long run, those countries will emerge and they will develop. And that, if you like, is the really long-run answer to what Live Aid's legacy is. Generations of activists that I would say I was part of, inspired by Bob Geldof and Bono on the one hand, but Desmond Tutu and Nelson Mandela on the other. And in particular, it's the latter two who I would say we think we work for, and I would say Bob and Bono also think they work for. It's the likes of Mandela and Tutu who continue to be our inspiration in this new partnership with Africa.